This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CashFly.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service that is the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/knowhow to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/knowhow. And by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your house. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping when you go to ring.com/knowhow. On today's show,
you'll know how to upgrade your FPV 250.
Welcome to Know-How. It's the Twitch show where you build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And for the next 45 minutes, so we've been told, we're going to be showing you some of the projects that we've been geeking out to so that you can take them home and geek out on your own.
We've been told 45 minutes, but who's going to stop us,
We haven't
Padre?
been really good.
No, we haven't.
To the 45
Hey, Padre.
minutes. Yeah.
Right.
45 minutes.
See, that's who's going to tell us to do 45 minutes.
Hal behind the camera there.
I know, tell me about it. No, I will say this, though. We've got a very interesting episode planned because do you remember the first quadcopter we ever actually built?
That would be the 250 frame.
That's right, that FPV 250 from Hobby King.
That was fun, yeah.
It was a starter kit. It was sort of like a STEP up from the SIMA X5.
Right.
It had more power. It kind of introduced you to how an actual quadcopter would feel. Right. But as time wore on, we found out that it was a little lacking in a few aspects.
Well, like anything of that nature, you want more power. You want it to be lighter, and as you get better at controlling it, then
you want FPV.
You want FPV, yeah.
Right. Well, we're going to be showing you how we took that frame, that original kit that we built, and this would actually work for any kit that you may have, and upgraded it.
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
I am very excited. But you know what I want to do first? I want to talk a little bit about something that will be going into the project, and that is aerial photography, aerial videography.
That actually was the first reason I wanted to get into drones, was aerial photography. So I tried to fly a DJI without any practice and destroyed it.
Yeah.
Since then, FPV has kind of taken over as my next
It really
thing.
has, and it's gotten to that point. I mean, yeah, okay, let's not even talk about all the FAA regulations. It's a pain in the butt, but you're going to have to do it. We are working on a kit that will have an FPV-capable performance craft under 250 grams, which means it won't fall under FAA jurisdiction at all.
Right.
But there is something that's just fun about being able to pilot a craft out of the front of the goggles. So it's very disconcerting the first couple of times.
Yes.
But it's fun.
Yes, it's very disconcerting too when you are flying with carbon fiber blades and you lose signal to the craft.
Yeah.
So, which happened to me the first time.
You will crash.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of crashing and there might be some crying. So, yeah. But I want to talk about cameras for just a bit because we've gotten some great shots over the last 18 months from our quadcopters. I've taken them to Hawaii. I've taken them across the country. They've been through DC all the way to California, up through Nevada and Denver. And I've been using this. This is an old Star Wars. This is the Hero 3. This is their black edition. Nice camera, but it's a little long in the tooth now. I mean,
yeah, it is, because they're on their 4th iteration now. Is this the black edition?
Yes, this is the Hero 3 plus this is the black.
They're still my favorite cameras to use as far as action cameras go.
Good. They look really good. But there is an issue, and that is, again, if you go to the overhead, we'll tear out the scale. If I mount this on my quadcopter, I'm putting 203 grams.
Already, without,
So, not great if I'm trying to get under that 250 gram limit.
I don't think you could build a 50-gram quad to lift that.
You really could. and yeah, you could do what a lot of other people have done, is you strip down the case, you know, just put the bare bone case. But I fly over water a lot, and my thing is, if I drop it into the water, the one piece I don't want to die is the camera.
Right, your $400 camera. Yeah, and it's got the footage. Good point.
I can replace the parts on a quadcopter. It might cost me, you know, 50, 60 bucks.
Right.
But if I lose a $400 camera, I'll be upset.
Yes, and especially the footage.
Yeah. And for all the early GoPros, you needed to have this waterproof case in order to make it survive things like crashes and dunks.
Right.
Not so much anymore. We've got this. So this is the Hero 4, this is the Session.
The little
Hero
itty
4.
bitty guy.
Little itty bitty. And go to the overhead, and let me show you. If I were to mount this on the quadcopter, 88 grams. This is 43.3% of the weight of the fully loaded black. And what I like about this is the quality is actually really good. Go ahead and start playing that B-roll. So this is some B-roll that I got from when I was in Hawaii. This is off of the default settings on this Hero 4 Session. Now, it will do a max resolution of 1440p, 30 frames a second. It will do 1080p at 60 frames a second. It will do 720p at 100 frames per second. And if for you slow-mo folks, it'll do WVGA, which is 848 by 480 at 120 frames per second. It records with H.264, just like the other GoPros. It has auto low light, 8 megabytes still shot, up to 3 photos per second in the burst rate. It'll do time-lapse shooting between 0.5, half a second, and 60 seconds. It supports ProTune, which is a great feature to get really nice colors. You get brights, you get darks. It has a non-replaceable 1,000 milliamp hour, 3.8 volt battery. So it's not like the other GoPros where you could swap it out when it's dead. You have to charge it inside the enclosure. It does have a serious weight advantage, not just because it's a smaller camera, but also because the case itself. So what the camera is already water resistant. It's already crash resistant. I actually dropped this off the 11th floor of this hotel. Yeah. Sorry, Dad. I hope you're not watching right now. Yes, I mean, look, this is in a spare case, and it deals with water just fine. Now, it says it's not waterproof, but it's definitely water resistant.
Right. So you wouldn't want to take it scuba diving, or did you?
I actually did. I did. And then later on, I found out that, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah. And a little water did leak into the battery case, but it was fine. I mean, if we can take it down a water slide into a nice little, splish splash at the bottom, it's going to handle most wet environments pretty well.
Yeah, I think your standard, if you're going in the pool or you happen to drop it in the sink or you're swimming around a little surface water of the ocean, you should be fine.
Right.
But there are some trade-offs to this camera.
There are a couple of trade-offs. The control system is a little weird.
Well, don't you have to interface more with your phone now?
Yeah,
if you want to change the frame rate settings.
There's only 2 buttons. There's the power button, which also doubles as the function button. So when I turn this on, it's off right now. If I were to hold it for 2 seconds, it would go into the time lapse or the burst mode. If I were to press and hold it for 1 second and then release, and actually then I think tap again, it goes into regular video recording mode. I have messed that up more times than I can. So you really do want to control this with your phone. It's not like the old models where you had the little LCD screen at the front.
Which was already kind of a pain to navigate in, but I can see if you want to shrink down the size, you kind of have to get rid of something.
You really do. And
what's the battery life like?
Battery life was, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad though. I was doing, at the resolution I was shooting, I was getting 2.5 hours.
That's not bad, because I have a Hero 3 Black Edition, and I'll be lucky to get maybe an hour out of it.
That sucks down. But yeah, this at maximum resolution, this will suck power.
Especially if you're doing 1080, 60 frames per second, that'll drain it.
But the difference, of course, is I can swap the battery out on that. On this one,
you can't.
If you look, the battery charging port is actually behind the waterproof door, the watertight door. Sorry, Unless the salt has... there we go.
Opening it is hard.
So both the card and the charging port are inside. They're behind this little door, which did a pretty good job of keeping it sealed against the elements. And again, if you're looking at a camera for a quadcopter, I know GoPro has had some issues recently. The company has been in trouble, but it was a mistake to market this at $400.
Yes.
But at $200, it is absolutely the best camera you can get for your quadcopter. Right. Compare it against what's the little one that we used to use?
The Sony one?
Yeah, we had a Sony one. There have been so many clones of the GoPro, and we all know the same thing, which is the quality is nowhere near a GoPro, but if it's so much cheaper, I'm willing to take the reduced quality in order to get, a camera I'm not afraid of destroying. At $200, this is pretty good.
And you're not the guinea pig anymore. They've been making them for a little while.
Yeah. And I would take advantage of it. Now, we are going to do a full review. Unfortunately, the weather in San Francisco hasn't been particularly good.
It's been a little gray. It wasn't as pretty as the islands that you were just at.
Yeah, and it's not great for flying. So we've had to sort of not fly.
Have you registered your drones?
I have. Well, remember, you don't have to register your drones. You register yourself.
And then you print out codes
Right.
that you then put on the drone.
Right. Well, I do my own system. So the law says, the rule says that the registration number must be readable without any tools.
So like a magnifying glass.
Well, no, it just means I have printed out a sticker that actually has a layer over the top of it. So you can't just take a picture of it. You can't just cursory look at it and know what the registration number is. You actually have to peel off the layer.
Oh, okay.
There's no tool required,
right.
but it fits the letter of the law. I just
Because you don't want someone knowing your code and then just copying it and putting it on a random drone.
No. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Heck no.
This is such a weird system that they've come up with.
They're going to have to fix it, but it's what we got for now.
Okay.
All right. Now, folks, when we come back, we've got this. You remember this? A little FPV 250?
Yeah, little guy.
It's where the whole story started.
I have broken many props on that poor thing.
Quadcopter lust. We're going to show you how we turn this into a killer craft for FPV. Before we do that, speaking of cameras, when I was at CES, I saw a product that, well, I really want to bring into the studio because I think it would be a nice tool for people who just don't want to fly, they want to take pictures.
Okay, what was it?
Well, I don't want to tell you. Instead, I'm just going to ask Alex to push the magic button. '2015 was the year of the drones. Drones were everywhere. Everyone had a drone. Everyone wanted to offer a drone. Well, 2016 is the year that drones grow up, which is why we're looking at the Hexo. I'm with the CEO of Hexo, Antoine, who's going to explain why this is the drone for the people who don't want to fly. Antoine, what is the Hexo?
The Hexo is a self-flying camera. It's a camera which flies, so it's a drone carrying your favorite action camera. And the beauty is you don't need anything to know about drones. So you just have a simple smartphone application where you can select from a library of camera movements. You can select where you want the drone to be compared to you, just launch it, and it works. Drone will take off, you put the smartphone into your pocket, you move around, and you get great aerial footages without the need to pilot a drone.
Oh, I have seen the sample footage from your cameras, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think we're going to try to get to your test flight later on in the week. But I got to ask, who are you selling this for? Because this is about $1,300. It is a very impressive piece of technology, but that's an expensive camera.
It's for all sports and video enthusiasts. You know, our customers today are very fan of action sports like snowboarding, surfing, riding bicycles, and they are enthusiasts about videos, spending hours of watching videos, editing their videos, and sharing their videos. So it's for any GoPro owners who wants to get new aerial footages from their action sports.
I have to say, the whole idea of a drone following you is not new. In fact, Lily made a big splash last year in having a drone that could do just that. But yours is the first 6-rotor craft. Why 6 over a standard quadcopter?
6 for more stability at high speed. So this one flies up to 45 miles per hour. So if you go 45 miles per hour, we can follow you, we can frame you and get very nice high quality images. And for safety as well. If you lose one propeller, the drone will reconfigure and will be stable enough to land safely.
And I think that actually that's a huge point that you need to point out, which is if you have a quadcopter and you lose a motor or a prop, it will fall out of the sky. If you have a 6 multi-rotor, you lose one, even lose 2 if they're on opposite sides, it will keep flying. It gives you that margin of error. Oh, Antoine, where do you see this going? If 2016 is the year that drones grow up, will this become just something that everyone has in their vacation video repertoire?
I believe so. You know, we believe that drones and flying cameras will be more and more common for people to use, and the way it will evolve is getting smarter and smarter. So the drones and those flying cameras will understand how you are moving, and will understand what is a perfect point of view for you to get the great shot and to capture your life experience.
Antoine, thank you very much for speaking with us. I'm Father Robert, and lights, camera, Hexo. So you got to remember that there was no transmitter. There's no standard like stick remote on that. Everything was done from an app. From the absolutely automated takeoff, automated landing, and you could do follow. So like, for example, in that police car, that was just a police officer who stopped by and thought, hey, can you show me what this is? And they put the phone inside the car on the dash and they said, follow at this distance. And it started like just doing lazy circles around the police car.
That's cool.
As it was driving. That's something I think that photographers who don't care about the drone side will like.
Yeah, I think so, especially if you want that static kind of shot, which it used to be the realm of helicopters. Like you needed to get a helicopter to get shots like that, and that's pretty cool.
And there's a couple of different modes. They showed me, so there's the one where it's static, so it just stays at the same angle the whole time, tries to keep you in the frame. There's another one where you can like pick target, and then it will just start doing these 360s. So it'll keep the camera pointing at you and just go around. It will travel at up to 45 miles an hour. Those are 6 2206 motors with 6-inch props. It's got a 3S 5,000 milliamp hour battery that will last about 25 minutes or so. And the nice thing, and I think this is going to be big for when we start getting these the dumb drones. Well, actually, smart drones.
Smarter, but
dumb people.
so you don't have to be as smart to use it.
Right, but because it's got 6 rotors, 6 motors, you could lose a motor and it will keep going.
Right.
And it can do emergency landing. Versus something like the Lily, which we have on pre-order, you lose a motor, it will drop out of the sky.
Yeah, and that's my biggest fear is when those devices either lose a motor or the battery starts to run out and say in their video you're kayaking down a river, where does it look for the nearest spot to land or fall out of the sky?
It goes for a little swim.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get one of these. The Lily guys are actually going to be in San Francisco in just a bit, so I've asked them to come up to the studio. And I want to show people, it's really well done. I mean, they have thought through the process because the Lily has been saying that they're the first selfie drone. Hexo's been on the market for what, 4 months now, and a product you can actually buy, not promised.
No, that's cool. I was surprised that they actually let you play with it, though.
I know. Well, that was the thing. So we drove away from the convention center. They had this place near one of the public parks that they had cordoned off, and they had like 6 models there, and they were letting people to take it up. And the amazing thing was, it really is as simple as saying, take off, follow. That's it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the dream, especially if you're not someone who has the tactile feel to fly a drone. Like, so maybe you or me with a camera on a drone, we could get like really specific shots that we would want. But for someone who just wants to like record, like throw the drone up in the air, not have to worry about it, just know that they're getting footage. Like this is pretty cool. There
was one other mode that I didn't get footage of, but it was because I was having too much fun watching. Where it's sort of like the videographer mode. So they put a special beacon. They put the beacon on the car. And so what the Quadcopter, the Hexo would do is it would keep the car always in frame, but the director got to move the drone. So no matter where he moved, it kept the car in frame.
Okay, I like that.
Oh, that's a cool directing tool. Yeah,
I like that.
I like that.
Nice.
So we can look forward to that as soon as we get to our drone overlord masters. Now, when we come back, we're going to be jumping straight into our FPV upgrade because we're going to show you how we can take this from lowly quad to FPV monster. But before we do that, hey, Brian, you know what I want to do?
Do you want to thank Wealthfront?
I do.
Me too.
Now, Wealthfront is for those people who are maybe a little bit anxious about getting into investing. It can be daunting when you consider where you should put your money and what you should invest in and who you should trust. These are all things that people should be doing. We know that, but a lot of us don't.
Right, and I don't have a ton of money to invest or to research and do those things. I mean, most of my money goes into quadcopters right now. So.
Well, what if I told you that you could invest a minimum of money? Let's say $500. You could start with that, see how they perform, and decide whether or not Wealthfront is for you.
I would love that.
Yeah, and I think everyone would love it. Now, Wealthfront is a different kind of portfolio management, whereas a lot of companies out there will take a 3% fee for managing your portfolio. Wealthfront, no, they'll give you your % free. Wealthfront is a place where you know you're going to be able to invest your money in the long term for you or your family's financial health. And you've probably wondered how you should do it. Well, we want to do it with Wealthfront because it's the way that our generation does things. Online with transparency. We see the fees, we see where the money is going, we see where it's being invested, and we always have control. Now, Wealthfront doesn't rely on some portfolio manager who may or may not have some other motives for how he or she invests your money. It's based on algorithms, cold, hard algorithms. They look at what the market is doing, and that's where they put your money. Those traditional advisors can charge you those huge fees. Again, between 1% and 3% of what you've got under their management. Plus, they love to tack on hidden fees that you don't find out about until your statement comes, and then you're upset and, well, you just can't do anything about it. Well, you can get started with Wealthfront by investing today at a minimum of $500. That's right, to start with nothing. Just put some money in there and see how they perform. It only takes a few minutes for you to sign up for an account at wealthfront.com, and it goes right to work. It monitors your portfolio around the clock. It takes actions as soon as opportunities arise. That software optimizes your investments for the best risk-adjusted return, net of taxes and fees. Now, we've heard from a lot of our Twit fans who love what they get when they get with Wealthfront. It will know where it should put your investment to do things like, well, make sure you're not going to get into a higher tax bracket. It's going to know when you need to take risk and when you don't. That's what their software does. That's what you're buying when you go with Wealthfront. They've got strategies like tax loss harvesting and direct index optimization after your tax returns, and they can simultaneously lower your tax bill while giving you a return on your investment. With Wealthfront, you pay 1/4 of 1% a year. That's right, that's 25 basis points, zero commission, no hidden fees. In other words, you know exactly what they're gonna take. There ain't no tomfoolery when you get your statement. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. Try to do that anywhere else. It doesn't exist. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. They manage over $2.6 billion in client assets, and it's grown over 20 times in the past 2 years. This is the hotness. Get in now. Get Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/knowhow to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommend for your portfolio. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who have already seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/knowhow. That's wealthfront.com/knowhow. Invest smart with Wealthfront. And we thank Wealthfront for their support of Know-How. Hey, Brian.
Yo.
You know what I want to do?
Get this quadcopter in the air?
I do. And that means we're going to have to upgrade it. Now, let's start with the basic upgrade talk, because anytime we talk upgrade, we got to talk about, well, what do we want to do?
Motors.
Now, okay, motors are good.
I want to go fast.
We want to go fast. This was, again, a decent craft for what we needed it to do. We needed it to introduce us to the world of quadcopters past the store-bought.
Right, because this is a lot more sensitive than something like the Cyma.
Right, exactly. I mean, as much as we say there's no power in this, it was so much more power than an X5. This had 1704 motors, it had 12-amp ESCs, it had a KK flight controller, it had this Diatone 250 frame that we like because, you know, they're pretty sturdy. We crashed them an awful lot and they keep on going.
The only thing I've ever had to replace is the props.
Exactly, and a lot of those.
Yes.
I've replaced a lot of them. So first thing we want to do is we want to consider what are the parts we can reuse. Okay. Obviously, we're not going to reuse the motors.
No, but the frame.
The frame.
If we're not reusing the motors, can we not? Probably not the ESCs.
No, we can. Yeah, we're going to reuse the ESCs. 12 amp. Actually, so we'll talk about that when we choose the motors. But 12 amp is actually quite a bit of power, and these ESCs will actually support 4S. So if we want to upgrade our battery to a higher voltage, this will do it just fine.
Cool.
We can still use this KK flight controller.
Nice.
You know, it's not high end, but for what we want to do, it's going to work just fine.
And the transmitter?
We're going to reuse our transmitter, our radio setup. So our receiver, our transmitter are going to stay the same. So a large chunk of this investment, including the props, we're going to be able to reuse.
Cool. I mean, we're just upgrading the motors because we're going to be adding more weight, right?
Precisely.
And we want to go fast.
Now remember, these 1704 motors, they generate like 170 some grams of thrust each, which you know, and the craft weighs something like 300 grams.
So not bad.
No, I mean, you're getting like a 2-to-1 thrust weight ratio, which is not bad. But the motors I want to replace with, I'm thinking I want them to generate something like, I don't know, a kilogram of thrust each.
So just a wee bit more than what they were making.
Yeah, I want each motor in the new setup to make like twice as much as all of these motors combined. Let's do that.
You know, I think it's feasible. Let's do it.
Right. Also, the other thing I want is I want a cage extension. We've seen them before when we built the Know-How 250. A cage extension gives me extra real estate so I can bolt in things like the FPV camera and the transmitter, and if I want to do any telemetry gear, because the space on these shelves is kind of
it's limited. You pretty much only have room to put a battery on that.
Exactly. Because the battery hangs off the bottom, so anything you want to put, you got to like strap it to the top or the shelf, and the props get in the way. So yeah, we want a cage.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we know that, let's go over the part list. The first thing are my motors. Alex, if you go and jump in here, I would suggest these. RTF 2204 2300 kV Advanced Series V2. $15 a pop, or it's $58 if you buy 4. And if you buy 4, they'll actually give you the clockwise and the counterclockwise heads on them.
Nice.
So that you'll never spin off your props.
Yeah, actually, that's the first thing that happened to me when I flew this quad. Is it looked like it got hit by a clothesline as I was flying it towards myself.
We have quite a few videos on our channel that show people just dropping out of the sky. But if you get the clockwise and the counterclockwise heads, then the rotation of the motor actually tightens the spinner.
So you should be good.
You should be good. Yeah. Just, you know, you can still have it happen, but not as much. With those motors, again, I'm going to get a ridiculous amount of thrust out of this. More than enough to lift a heavier battery, the FPV setup, the cage, and anything else I may want to add.
Cool.
Okay. Now I'm also going to need some wire. So this is nice and cheap, $1.39. Again, from Ready to Fly Quads, you can get yourself a meter of black and red. I would suggest 16 or 18 gauge. Actually, 18 gauge is really all you're going to need. If you want to get 16 gauge, you can, but that's kind of overkill.
Okay.
You're also going to want that FPV long frame extension. That's what this is. Now, this is for an entire new frame. That's because if you buy the long extension, it's like $11.
So might as well just get an extra frame.
Exactly. So now you have a frame, and like the feet, especially, because people break feet all the time.
Well, that's why we have the little zip tie configuration that we do on this one.
Precisely. And that will give you the ability to add all those things. Let me throw in a couple other things. There's 2 things here. The first is the Ready to Fly LC filter with switch. We did not use this on this build. We're going to add it in a future build. This gives me the ability to turn off electronics. It also filters my FPV from the onboard electromagnetic interference.
Right, which would then give you, you would get interference.
Yeah, fuzz.
Which you don't want when you're flying.
No, it gets in the way. You're also going to need a, we won't need it on this particular build, but we've used these before. This is the 1 to 17 volt adjustable voltage regulator. The reason why we want this is I'm pulling power off my power distribution board, which just gives me whatever voltage the battery is.
Right.
If I put that in line, it means I can tune it so that it doesn't matter. As long as I'm getting under 17 volts, my FPV system will always be getting 11.1 volts.
And they're so cheap. And we've used them for other projecents too, so you might as well get a few of them.
Exactly. And 99 cents, buy yourself a bunch. You also need a power distribution board. This is also cheap, $1.99. We're not going to use all the ports on this, but it is nice to have a high quality one, so you don't have to worry about that being a factor. You also need 2mm bullets. Now, the ones that came with the kit were pre-soldered. We're going to have to solder these. We need to modify our motors to have the right lengths, and then we're also going to need to create a power harness, and that will all require 2mm bullets. You'll also need an XT60 connector. These are also cheap. I would suggest buying a bunch, because if you buy like 1, it's basically the same price as buying 10. So buy 10, just to have a bunch of
buy in bulk.
Yeah. And then spacers. Spacers are always good, nylon spacers. I use a lot of them. I will say this, if you, our total cost for this upgrade is like $94. But if you've been building for a while, a lot of the stuff you'll already have in your kit, probably everything except the motors.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So with that, we need a soldering kit, we need some snips, basically all the basic stuff that we've been doing in our makerspace projects. And we will be able to upgrade this to a true FPV capable craft.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Ready to do that? All right. We're going to show you that in just a bit, but before we do that, you know what I want to do? Let's go ahead and take the second sponsor so that we can bring them home uninterrupted.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, who it is.
Ring.
Ring, exactly. Now, Ring, well, they've been on the show a lot, and I love advertising for Ring because I've used Ring way before they were a sponsor of Know-How. I was looking for a solution. I told you this. I was looking for a solution for my parents because they're in a retirement community, and I worry about them. You know, there's people who drop by the house at all hours, ring the bell. They want to see if anyone's home, and then if there's no one home, they'll break in.
Right.
Well, what I wanted was a way to not just see if they were okay, but also to log suspicious activity over time.
Well, not even your parents like suspicious activity at their house, but like across the street, like someone's stealing a package across the street.
Precisely, and Ring has become one of these companies that offers a product that, it actually works really, really well.
Yeah.
I've had great use of this product. Let me show you exactly how it works. So this is the kit. Now in the kit, you've got this, which of course is the doorbell. This connects to your house. It allows you to hook into house power through here. So if you've got an existing doorbell button, it will power it off of that voltage and you'll never need to power the Ring. If you don't have that, there's just a little micro USB port. Charge it up once, you're good for a year. Now, it also includes all the tools you need to install, everything from the drill bit to the level and the little USB cable. But here's what I love. Once you have it installed and once it's connected to your house, it allows you to access this from anywhere in the world over your smartphone. Now, here's exactly how it looks. So go to the overhead here. This is the one I have at my parents' home in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I'm going over really slow connection right now. But this does motion detection. So who the heck is that?
That's not your mom?
That's not my mom. So someone just came and took some of our flowers, which is awesome. I love them. I'm sorry, I was in the way. This is the kind of thing that I can download. Now, they also have a web application, so I can log in, and I actually can look at videos from months and months back.
Right, so you can actually see if somebody's coming back at the same time during the day to find out if you're home or not.
So if I got the suspicious person coming by once, I'm like, okay, maybe they got the wrong house. They come by once a week.
Yeah.
I'm going to start being a little concerned. And I will have those clips. I can download them to my computer. I can send them to law enforcement. It's one of these things that it's not just a gadget that's bright and shiny. It's a gadget that does something useful.
It's the Internet of Things that I'm excited about.
Exactly. So, folks, if you're looking for a gadget that doesn't just give you cool tech but gives you a peace of mind, I urge you to try the gadget that Time magazine called one of the best gadgets of the year. USA Today named it as one of their top gadgets of 2015. Put your mind at ease. Protect your home. Get yourself a Ring video doorbell today. Now, you can go to ring.com/knowhow for free expedited FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/knowhow, and you'll get free shipping to your house. With Ring, you're always home. And we thank Ring for their support of know-how. Now, Brian.
Yeah?
You know what I want to do now?
Let's finally get to this FPV build.
I want to tear it apart. That's what I want to do.
Oh, poor little guy.
Hey, Alex, without further ado, let's show me torturing this little boy.
The Hobby King FPV 250 is a great low-cost starter build with forgiving flight characteristics, above average durability, and enough power to bomb around. However, FPV, or first-person view, requires a cargo and lifting capacity that the stock FPV 250 just can't deliver. Thankfully, upgrading your Hobby King Special is a relatively simple and inexpensive task that will take your starter craft to the races. Our upgrade starts with a teardown. Open the avionics cage and disconnect the ESCs from the flight controller. Unscrew the flight controller from the frame, then remove it and the receiver. Cut off the zip ties holding the ESCs to the arms, then disconnect the motor leads from the ESCs. Disconnect the ESCs from the power harness, and you should now be able to pull the ESCs free of the frame. Finally, remove the 4 bolts from each of the motors and set them aside. Now might be a good time to clean your frame and components. We'll be reusing the frame, flight controller, ESCs, and receiver, so you might as well take the opportunity to give them a quick wipe down and check for any damage. With the craft stripped, it's time to prepare our new motors. We need a 2mm male bullet connector on each of the motor leads so that they match the 2mm female bullet connectors on the 12-amp ESCs that came with the kit. Use 2 bolts to temporarily mount a motor to an arm, then measure your leads to minimize the excess of cable. The Diatone 250 frame has an indentation on the underside of the arm that is perfect for stowing wire and connectors. Once you have your lengths, cut, strip, and tin each wire, then solder a 2mm bullet connector to each. Finish with a length of heat shrink tubing to insulate the connector. Repeat for all 4 motors. With bullet connectors on your 4 motors, we can mount them on the frame. Use 4 M3 8mm bolts to attach each motor to an arm of the Diatone 250 with a wiring harness pointed towards the center of the frame. Use a dab of Loctite Blue on each bolt to keep them from loosening under vibration. Attach your 4 landing feet to the bottom of each arm using a pair of small zip ties to secure each foot to its arm. We're doing this now so that we don't accidentally thread wires in such a way as to interfere with the feet later in our build. Thread the motor and ESC leads through the arm so that all motor connected leads are underneath the arm and the ESC power leads are above the arm. Connect your motors to their ESCs, then loosely zip tie them to the underside of each arm. We're not completely securing them now because we may need to swap a few wires when we check motor rotation. Each motor comes with a threaded adapter, a washer, spinner, and the screws needed to mount the adapter. The adapter is fitted over the motor mounting plate, then fastened with 4 screws. Again, use Loctite glue to firmly fasten the screws. With the adapters mounted, put a washer on each shaft and fasten them with a spinner, just to make sure that your parts don't go missing later in the build. With our motors mounted and built out and our ESCs in their proper place, we now need to make a power distribution harness. We're using a 45mm ready-to-fly quads power distribution board that has soldering points for 8 ESCs and 3 peripherals. Cut 8 1-inch lengths of 18-gauge silicone wire, 4 black and 4 red. These will become the leads that go from the distribution board to the power leads on the ESCs. Also cut a pair of 5-inch lengths of 16-gauge silicone wire. These will become the wires that connect the power distribution board to the battery. Strip 4mm of insulation off each end of the 1-inch wires and tin. Solder a female 2mm bullet connector to one end of each wire, then insulate with heat shrink. Take your 2 5-inch lengths of 16-gauge silicone wire and strip 4mm off of one end and 10mm off the other, then tin. This will be the power lead that connects the XT60 connector to your power distribution board. We're going to solder the female XT60 connector to the 10mm end of our power leads, but first we need to plug the female connector into its male counterpart. Doing so will spread the heat of the soldering and keep the pins from misaligning as the plastic softens. Starting with the black wire, insert the 10mm stripped end into the socket on the female XT60 connector that is closest to the side with cut corners. Apply heat to the wire, not the connector. And when the solder on the pre-tinned wire starts to flow, quickly apply solder to the wire and fill the cup. Never spend more than 8 seconds applying heat, and make sure to let the XT60 cool before proceeding to solder the red lead into the remaining XT60 connector. Once your wires are attached, use 3/16" heat shrink tubing to insulate the conductors. With our connectors soldered and insulated, we can now match all our red wires to positive voltage mounts and all the black wires to the negative. Solder the 1-inch leads to the sides of the board, then solder the 5-inch leads to the inside contacts. Mount all your wires on the same side of the board. Avoid an excess of solder, but flow enough to make sure that all the joints are solid. Take special care not to bridge any of the contact points with loose solder. We're planning on expanding the functionality of our FPV250 with an FPV system and perhaps some running lights, so we're going to add 2 male JST connectors to the power distribution harness. This will allow us to easily add peripherals to the craft without having to disassemble the power system. Cut your connectors down to a comfortable length, then solder them to the peripheral ports, black to negative, red to positive. Before we install our power distribution board, let's test it for shorts. Set your multimeter for continuity testing and attach your positive lead to red and your negative lead to black. If you've soldered properly, then there should be no continuity between the leads. If there is, then you need to check your wiring and solder joints. You should also use your multimeter to make sure that you do have continuity between the black battery connector and all the black contacts and the red battery connector and all the red contacts. If you're satisfied that the current is flowing where it's supposed to, then it's time to mount the board in your frame. You can use the existing mount to install the power harness and KK flight controller with nylon spacers in between the two. But if you've got a Dremel or other cutting tool, I suggest that you drill through the bottom of the avionics bay so that you can use 4 25mm bolts to attach both the power board and the flight controller. This will make the assembly stiffer and less likely to be misaligned after a crash. I'm running the screws through the frame and securing the power board with nylon spacers. Connect your ESCs to the power distribution board. I prefer to connect across the board to neaten the appearance of the harness. Match your lead colors, red to red and black to black, and try to arrange the wiring so that it fits inside of the avionics tub. Now let's start assembling our long frame extension cage. The cage consists of 2 small plates, a large top plate, and aluminum standoffs. Use the included screws to attach 2 aluminum standoffs to the edge of each of the small plates. Use a dab of Loctite glue to make sure the screws don't vibrate free. Mount each of the small plates on the front and rear shelf of the frame, Then fasten a screw through both the frame and the small plate to an aluminum standoff, once again using Loctite Blue. You should now have a cage attached to your frame with 8 standoffs, but without the top plate. Leave the top plate and the camera holder for the moment. We'll need access to the innards of the craft when we start testing the electronics, which we'll do when we return to our FPV 250 upgrade.
We've got retired guy in the chat room saying, Loctite, you're never going to get that out. This is actually Loctite Blue.
Red, not Loctite Red.
Yeah, no, Loctite Red, you are fused. It's never coming out. You're basically bonded to metal. Loctite Blue, we use it all the time, and you can take it out. It does take a little bit of pressure, but you can remove it.
And it only takes once not using Loctite Blue to realize that you should be using Loctite Blue.
Be using Loctite. Yeah. And actually what I found is, because I'm now doing a lot of aerial photography, the problem becomes annoying way before it's fatal. Because if you start having loose screws, what happens is you get vibration translating into the camera.
Right.
And you'll notice it immediately. And now you have to go back and you have to Loctite everything up. So yeah, just do it right the first time. This is the product. If you go to the side view here, Alex, this is what it's going to look like. I've actually added the avionics already. So I've got the controller on here. This is the original KK. You've got the power distribution board. But notice I've added these. I've got 2 JST connectors, which means I will be able to add things like an FPV system or lights, and I won't have to disassemble the whole thing to solder them back in. So that's one of the things I've added. Yeah. Now, and actually, let me go ahead and show you. Let's power this up really quickly and show you what we're hoping to give you towards the end of the next episode. If I could plug it in properly. There we go. Boop, 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 boop. So this is just our standard FPV system. This is the one that we showed off earlier. I'm going to plug this into the board, and hopefully there's no smoke, because if there's smoke...
Should I be standing back for this?
There we go. All right. So now I'm powering it off of this same system that's powering the quadcopter. This is going to be mounted in the front of the craft. Alex, are you getting the input for this? Yeah. So that's what it's going to look like. So eventually, we're going to have this mounted in the nose of the craft, and it will be able to show us exactly what the front of the quadcopter looks like.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're getting there. We're going to be doing that in the next episode. So in the next episode, we're going to show you how to tune in all the electronics, because we've taken it apart, we've given it new motors. We're going to have to make sure the receiver's okay, the transmitter's okay. We're going to need to make sure that it's still set up properly. And we will need to reset the throttle curve, which is something that a lot of people have had issues with.
Yeah, especially with these giant motors. But I did notice you had to do a lot of cleaning on the frame.
Yeah, so I did this twice because I had an FPV 250 and you had an FPV 250.
I did, yeah.
I noticed yours was a lot dirtier than mine.
It was well loved. Well loved as it dove straight into the ground.
Yeah, obviously. And also there were like bits of Loctite Blue that had not even dried when you crashed, because it was Loctite Blue embedded with dirt.
Yeah, well, you know, I was really excited to use it, but it worked, and you know, it kind of proved how much of a beating this little frame and these motors can take. Like, these are durable little guys.
And they are very durable, which is why we're using it. Now, a future build, we're going to be doing FPV, but with like a racing frame.
Yeah.
We're not doing that yet, because we're still bringing you into it. Look for that next week, not next Monday, because Monday's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking all about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
You had a chance to get your hands on a cool electric bike.
Yes, it's a motorbike.
I had a chance to look at some very cool EVs at CES, so we're going to dedicate an episode to look at where we are in the state of EVs. But next Thursday, we're actually going to show you live in the studio how we take something from this kind of readiness to flight.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to that. Are we going to fly it in the studio? Nobody's here.
Yes.
Yeah, we will.
yes, we will. Folks, we know that this was a lot of information. We've got everything in our show notes. Where can they find?
Excuse me, Padre.
Yeah, sorry.
43 minutes.
Yes.
43 minutes.
Okay,
here we go.
Go.
Twit.tv/KH is where all our show notes live. And not only the show notes, but you can find prior episodes that you can download in the video size of your choice. But that's not the only place you can find us. We're also on Google+.
Yeah, just go to Google+, look for the Know-How group. Now, once you join, and by the way, it's an approved join, so submit your request. Within a day. I'll get it to you within a day. We'll add you to the group. We just have to kill all the spam and the weird like question mark girls that pop into the group all the time. But it's a great place to post questions. It's a great place to help people who are just getting into the DIY and maker spirit. And it's not just about quadcopters. I mean, yes, there's a lot of quadcopter stuff in there, but we've got some great projects from people wanting to play with Raspberries and Arduinos and Wi-Fi systems and networking. It's all on the Google Plus group. Of course, that's not the only place you can find us on the socials.
Nope. You can also find us on Twitter. I am at cranky_hippo.
And I am at PadreSJ.
And our camera guy, if we had time, or I should say our director, if we had time to go to him, we would say his Twitter handle was at HalF3?
Grumpy.
Yeah,
like he's one of the
Grumple
dwarves. Grumple trees.
Yeah, exactly.
Grumple Stillskin.
That's probably the best place to get to ask us questions and tell us stuff, right?
Yeah, Twitter.
Yeah,
That's ANELF3. Folks, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm actually posting a bunch of stuff this week that's not going to go into the regular shows. People have been asking about the circuits for the Arduinos, about the line cleaners. People have been asking about some network switching stuff. There's going to be little vignettes we put there that don't end up in the show. So you got to join the YouTube group and subscribe if you want to see all the goodness.
Go do it.
Until next time, I'm Father Robert Palliser.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And now that you know how,
Go build it. Go crash it. Use Loctite Blue.